I arrived in that small inland town in the state of Ohio thinking I was prepared. I wasn't. The airport was simple, almost empty for early afternoon. I had lost my father a few months earlier. My cousin picked me up in the parking lot. She smiled when she saw me, but it was that short smile that never reaches the eyes. I thought about saying something about missing her, about how she was doing, but I ended up letting out a crooked hi and getting into the car. The drive to her house was far too quiet. The house was in an old neighborhood. When she parked, before even turning off the car, she let out a heavy sigh. She didn't look at me. She just said her mother was having one of those days. I laughed, thinking it was just a figure of speech. It wasn't. As soon as the door opened, I felt it. It wasn't a specific sentence or a direct look. It was the heavy air. My cousin's mother appeared in the hallway as if she had been waiting. She sized me up from head to toe in seconds, like someone inspecting merchandise. She said my full name with a strange intonation. She commented that I was thinner than she remembered. Commented that trips don't fix grief. Commented that I could stay as long as necessary, as long as I didn't interfere with the household routine. All of that before I had even put my bag down on the floor. My cousin stayed quiet, and that was what bothered me the most. She didn't disagree, didn't agree, didn't react. She just picked up my things and took me to the guest room, as if it were a rehearsed procedure. The room was clean, too tidy. Tight sheets, light furniture, no photos. While I unpacked, I heard my cousin's mother's voice echoing through the house, listing things that needed to be done. Groceries, phone calls, favors for a friend. My cousin always answered in that neutral, short tone that isn't exactly obedience, but isn't resistance either. It's survival. That night, we sat down for dinner at 7 sharp. No one asked if I was hungry. The plate appeared already served, already decided. The conversation revolved around people I didn't know, problems that weren't mine, and how my cousin's mother always ended up fixing everything for everyone. I did everything I could not to draw attention, trying to understand where I had gotten myself into. At some point, my cousin's mother commented that since her daughter was without classes for now, it was only natural that she be more available to help. My cousin took a deep breath, and that's when I realized that trip wasn't just a break from my grief. I had unknowingly stepped into a territory where control disguised itself as care, and where saying no seemed like an offense. And even tired, even sad, part of me thought, this is not going to end well. The first few days followed an almost military rhythm. Breakfast at 7, a task list stuck to the fridge. My cousin's mother said it was organization. My cousin worked, paid her own bills, had her own car, but inside that house, none of that seemed to matter. Every time the landline rang, her mother answered already saying her daughter's name, as if she were offering a service. She never asked. It was always, you can stop by later. It doesn't hurt to help, since you're going out anyway. And my cousin went. She always went. I started noticing the small details. The way she checked her phone in secret, like she was doing something wrong. The way she apologized for things that had nothing to do with her. The quick glance down the hallway every time she laughed a little louder. One afternoon, while we were folding clothes in the bedroom, she finally spoke. It wasn't a big outburst. It was almost nothing. She said she was tired, that sometimes she felt like she didn't exist outside her mother's needs. Then she went quiet, as if she had said too much. I'm not good at comforting people. Never have been. So I just stayed there, folding towels, trying to show that I had heard her. The tension exploded 2 days later, in an almost ridiculous way. My cousin's mother walked into the bedroom without knocking and announced that her daughter needed to go pick up some things for a friend of hers on the other side of town. She said it like it was obvious, like my cousin's day was free to be used. My cousin replied that she couldn't, said she had made plans to go out with me that afternoon. The sentence came out shaky, but it came out. The silence that followed was heavy. My cousin's mother stood there, staring at her daughter like she was seeing something she didn't recognize. Then she started, said it was ingratitude, that she had raised her daughter alone, that no one helped the way she helped. My cousin tried to explain, said it wasn't a no forever, just not that day. I stood there, frozen, feeling like my presence made everything worse, but without the courage to leave. My cousin's mother said it was fine, that she understood, but that her daughter would regret it later. Later, while we were out, trying to pretend normalcy in a cheap cafe, my cousin barely touched her drink, said she had spoken too much, that she shouldn't have gone against her mother. I wanted to say that it wasn't going against her. It was a boundary, but I didn't. We got home around 8 p.m. The house was too quiet. My cousin's mother didn't appear. My cousin commented, half relieved, that maybe her mother had dropped the issue. I didn't believe it, but I said nothing. That night, I heard footsteps in the hallway after midnight, doors opening and closing, the kind of noise that isn't accidental. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, with that bad feeling in my stomach, like something had been moved out of place. The next morning, when my cousin went to grab her bag to leave, she stopped in the middle of the living room, looked at the table, at the keys, at me. Her face turned red, then pale. The car keys weren't there. She stood still, breathing shallowly, like she was calculating every word that would come next. She said that wasn't right, that she needed the keys back. It was the first time I heard my cousin say, "This is wrong," out loud. And I saw, up close, how much that cost her. My cousin's mother appeared in the kitchen as if nothing was happening. Fresh coffee, an expression far too calm for someone who had hidden her own daughter's car keys. When my cousin asked where they were, the question came out far too polite for the situation. The answer came in a lecturing tone. She said she had put them away, that her daughter needed to learn consequences, that disobedience couldn't go unpunished. She spoke as if explaining something obvious to a child. My cousin said, with a steadier voice than I had ever heard from her, that it was theft, that the car was in her name, that she didn't live there out of obligation, that she helped because she wanted to, not because she owed anything. My cousin's mother laughed, a short laugh, said that those modern words didn't change reality, that while she was under that roof, nothing was really just her daughter's. I started feeling wrong for being there. Every sentence felt like an invitation to get involved, but also a trap. I thought about leaving, buying a ticket back, making up any excuse. But another part of me didn't want to leave my cousin alone in that moment. The landline rang. My cousin's mother answered and within seconds was already telling the story her way. She spoke loudly so everyone could hear, said she was being humiliated by her own daughter, that she was being embarrassed because of an ungrateful young woman. My cousin tried to interrupt, asked to speak. Her mother turned her body, covering the phone with her hand, and told her to behave. Said this was only happening because I was there, putting ideas in her head. That's when I knew I had become part of the problem. After the call, the threats came, not shouted, said calmly. She said the car would stay with her for a month, that she would lend it to someone else who knew how to be grateful, and that if her daughter insisted on causing trouble, she would learn the hard way. My cousin stayed frozen for a few seconds. I saw the silent struggle. Between swallowing it one more time or crossing a line there was no coming back from. She picked up the phone. When she dialed, her mother started screaming for real. Said no one called the police over family matters. Said her daughter would be dead to her if she did that, and that I had no idea where I was getting myself into. While my cousin spoke to the police dispatcher, describing the car, the address, the situation, I felt a strange fear. It wasn't fear of the police. It was fear of the reaction that was still coming. When she hung up, my cousin's mother went to her bedroom and slammed the door. My cousin and I sat in the living room not knowing what to say. It was there, in that silence, that I thought, maybe I should have left earlier. Maybe I was feeding something that was already dangerous. But I also thought that if I left now, I would be confirming everything that woman said, that my cousin was alone, that no one stayed, and I couldn't leave. The police took longer than I expected. I don't know why. While we waited, my cousin walked around the house, opened drawers she already knew were empty. It wasn't just the car. It was the confirmation that her mother had gone too far. I tried to make conversation, ask if she wanted water, if she wanted to sit. She just shook her head. At some point, she said quietly that she felt stupid for taking so long to set boundaries. My cousin's mother came out of the bedroom when she heard the police knock at the door. She didn't look nervous. She looked satisfied. She put on lipstick, fixed her hair, like someone getting ready to receive important guests. I felt a knot in my stomach. That calm didn't match anything normal. When the officers came in, she spoke first. Always her. Said she had only withheld her daughter's car for disobedience, that it was an educational measure, that her daughter was exaggerating. She used the word drama more than once. The officers asked for documents. My cousin brought the car registration, her driver's license, everything organized in an old folder. Her hands were shaking, but she handed them over anyway. One officer checked calmly. The other asked simple, direct questions. That's when my cousin's mother crossed the line for good. She yanked the wallet out of her daughter's hand, tore the document right there into small pieces, throwing them onto the kitchen table in front of the police officers. She said now her daughter couldn't drive, said she had solved the problem, looked at me with that smile. The officers looked at each other. The mood shifted. My cousin's mother still tried to argue, saying it was her right, that no one there understood how things worked. One of the officers explained, with a patience I wouldn't have had, that destroying an official document was a crime, that the car wasn't hers, that her daughter was an adult. When they handcuffed my cousin's mother, the silence was absolute. No screaming, no tears, just that look of pure disbelief on her face. He explained that while the case was ongoing, she wouldn't be allowed to return to the house, that she needed to keep her distance from her daughter. After they took her away, the house felt empty in a strange way. My cousin sat down on the living room floor and started laughing, a short, nervous laugh that turned into crying. In that moment, I understood that none of this would go back, not to what it had been before. And for the first time since I arrived, I thought that maybe this was necessary. The police station felt smaller than I imagined, and my cousin sat beside me. Her mother was brought in handcuffed, but she walked like she was entering a social event. She didn't look at her daughter. When she finally spoke, it was to an officer, saying it was a ridiculous misunderstanding and that everything would be resolved as soon as someone competent showed up. The officer who handled our case asked my cousin to report the facts again. She spoke slowly, and I could see she was still trying to be fair to her own mother, even after everything. When it was her mother's turn, she didn't deny taking the car, said it was to protect her daughter. She didn't deny destroying the document, said she acted on impulse, provoked by disrespect. At no point did she use the word mistake. At some point, she pointed at me, said I was a bad influence, that her daughter had never been like this before I arrived, that I was taking advantage of a fragile moment in the family to cause conflict. I wanted to respond. I didn't. The officer wrote everything down with the same neutral expression. Hours passed without me noticing. The wall clock read 10 p.m. when another officer came in and asked to speak with my cousin's mother privately. She stood up confidently, like someone sure she would walk out the front door. She didn't. When she came back, her posture was different. The officer explained again that this wasn't a domestic issue, that her daughter was an adult. My cousin's mother replied that it was absurd, that the system was against mothers, that no one respected authority anymore, said she would sue the entire department if necessary. That's when I realized that night wasn't an isolated episode. That was just the beginning. Update 1. After everything, we were released close to midnight. My cousin left the station with a temporary paper replacing the document that had been destroyed. I drove us back to the house, my hands slick with sweat on the steering wheel. And I still had no idea how much worse it was going to get. We slept badly. When I say badly, I mean barely at all. Early in the morning, the landline started ringing. It didn't ring normally. It rang insistently like it was angry. I was in the kitchen when I answered. I didn't say my name. I just listened. My cousin's mother's voice came through sharp, full of certainty. She said she had been wronged, that the officer had been incompetent, that this wouldn't end there. She asked, with fake calm, whether her daughter was ready to apologize. I hung up without answering. My cousin said it was predictable, that her mother never accepted losing, that she always had to come out on top, even if it meant crushing someone along the way. She left to deal with the provisional document. I stayed home. That was a mistake. A little after 10, there was a knock on the door. It wasn't polite. When I opened it, I was face to face with 2 police officers different from the ones the night before. They looked around, assessing the house. They asked for my full name, asked for identification, said they had received a concerning report involving my recent behavior. They used vague words. Suspicious activity. Possible risk. I asked who had made the report. They didn't answer directly. They didn't need to. The shadow was there, even without a name. I explained where I was, why I was there, who I was with. One of them wrote things down. The other watched me like he was trying to decide whether I was dangerous or just inconvenient. In the end, they said it was just a welfare check, that someone had exaggerated their concern. When the door closed, my hands started shaking. Not from fear of the police, from anger. That wasn't care. It was revenge. When my cousin came back and I told her, she didn't seem surprised, just tired. She said her mother would do that easily, said that now I had officially made the list. Early in the afternoon, the phone rang again. This time, my cousin answered. Her mother was yelling that I had been reported because strangers couldn't just enter her family's life, said I was causing legal trouble, that if anything bad happened to her, it would be my fault. My cousin replied with something I had never heard before. She said that if it continued, she herself would file a report. That's when I understood. It wasn't about the car anymore, or the document. It was about humiliation. The following days didn't explode. They dragged on, and that was worse. The first time we went to the grocery store together, I felt my heart race in the parking lot. Mid-afternoon, strong sun, everything normal. Too normal. And even so, I kept scanning everything around me. Inside the store, I tried to focus on the list. Milk, bread, fruit. Simple things. Real things. But every time someone passed too close, my body reacted, uneasy. My cousin spoke little. When she did, it was about practical things. Where to park. Which checkout line was emptier. We didn't talk directly about her mother. When we got back, the back door was open. Not wide open. Just open enough to look like a mistake. We stood there for a few seconds, trying to remember if either of us had left it that way. Neither of us had. We said it could have been carelessness. That maybe someone opened it to air the house out. We found it strange, but we didn't say anything else. At night, I woke up at every sound. A car passing too slowly, a distant bark. At some point, I started leaving my phone unlocked on the nightstand, like that could give me some kind of advantage if something happened. One afternoon, I went out alone to buy medicine. My cousin had to work, and I insisted I could handle it. I walked 2 blocks to the pharmacy, and while waiting in line, I had the clear feeling of being watched. I looked around. Ordinary people. A man choosing vitamins. A woman asking the clerk for a discount. No one looking at me. Nothing happened. I paid, went home, locked the door. My cousin arrived around 6 p.m., dropped her bag, sat next to me, and stayed silent for a few minutes. Then she said she had seen her mother's car drive slowly down the street earlier. It didn't stop. It didn't need to. The message had been delivered. We talked about leaving. A hotel, a friend's place, any neutral ground. As if leaving would mean admitting defeat. As if staying would provoke. It was in that strange state, between vigilance and exhaustion, that I realized something important. The goal wasn't to confront us directly. It was to wear us down, to make us feel wrong for existing outside her control. A few days later, a neighbor knocked on the door. He said he had seen strange movement on his security cameras. Asked, a little awkwardly, if anything had happened that week. He showed us the video on his phone. The image was bad, grainy, but you could see a man entering through the back door of the house. He didn't stay more than a few minutes. He left quickly, looking around. It was the same day we had found the door open. Neither of us recognized the man. Neither of us could say for sure who it might be. We checked the entire house. Nothing was missing. No drawers rummaged through. No forced doors. We thought about going to the police. Thought about explaining. In the end, we didn't. No theft, no damage, no clear answer. It felt like an exaggeration. It was late morning. My cousin had left early for work. I stayed alone in the house, trying to fake normalcy. I washed a mug, folded a dish towel. When there was a knock on the door, I already knew it wasn't a visit. It wasn't aggressive. It was firm, confident, professional. I opened the door and saw 4 people, 2 uniformed officers and 2 men in plain clothes. One of them introduced himself as a detective, calmly stating his full name, asked if he could come in. I let them in, because refusing felt worse. They spread out through the living room without touching anything. One stood near the window, another near the hallway door. I sat down. They stayed standing. The detective began speaking quietly. Said they were there to clarify a serious situation, that they had received a recent report involving my name. I asked what it was about. He said there was an accusation of a violent crime, that according to the report I had caused my cousin's disappearance. He used that word, disappearance. Said there were indications of intent and that they needed to know where she was. For a few seconds, I didn't understand. Not from shock, from absurdity. I laughed. A short, involuntary laugh. The detective didn't laugh. I said my cousin was alive. Said she had gone to work. Said it was ridiculous. They asked when I had last seen her. I answered. Asked if we had fought. I answered. Asked if I had anything against her. That was the moment I knew, with absolute certainty, who had done this. Update 2. The detective said the report had come from someone concerned about my cousin's well-being. Someone who believed she was in imminent danger. Someone who claimed I had motives. I explained everything. From the car, from the document, from the arrest. I told it calmly, like I was narrating someone else's life. At one point, one of the officers asked to see the bathroom, as protocol. He opened the door, came back, and nodded to the detective. When my cousin arrived home earlier than expected, her bag still hanging off her shoulder, she stopped in the doorway, looked at the officers, then at me, and said something like, "Let me guess." The detectives asked for identification, checked it, asked questions. The tone changed. There was no explicit apology, but there was a visible retreat. Before leaving, the detective said something that stuck with me. He said that technically it was impossible to prove malicious intent in the report. That from a legal standpoint, someone could claim genuine concern. That made everything more complicated. My cousin filed the formal complaint the next day, not as revenge, as protection. I went with her, sat in that same plastic chair at the station, now far too familiar. While she spoke to the officer, I watched her. Her posture was different, no longer folded inward, not aggressive, firm. She talked about the destruction of the document, false reports, ongoing harassment. At some point, the officer looked up and asked if all of that was documented. She said yes, that there were reports, records, dates, times, everything as required. I don't have a mother anymore. That woman can go to hell. A few days later, I was alone in the house, trying to distract myself with pointless cleaning. Cleaning the living room felt like a way to keep my hands busy while my mind wouldn't stop. I pulled the couch away from the wall, wiped down the baseboards, moved things no one ever moves. That's when I found the object. Too small to draw attention, dark, tucked behind a piece of furniture, near an outlet. At first, I thought it was some old part, something forgotten. I picked it up, turned it over in my hand, felt its weight. When I searched the model on my phone, my stomach dropped. It was a listening device. I showed it to my cousin when she got home. Neither of us spoke for a few seconds. We just stared at that object on the table. We couldn't tell how long it had been there, whether it had been placed recently, after the fights, or if it had been there from before. There was no way to prove anything. No cameras inside the house, no witnesses, no direct link that could legally support the suspicion that was impossible to ignore. But it was hard not to connect the dots. The man who had entered through the back door. The door left open. We thought about going to the police, thought about reporting it. In the end, we didn't. Without concrete proof, it would become just another narrative against us. We removed the battery, put the device in a box at the back of the closet. Not like someone hiding something, like someone keeping a confirmation they couldn't use yet. A few days later, we were called in again. This time, not to explain, to listen. We went into a smaller room. The county prosecutor spoke with professional calm, said there was enough material to move forward, said the recent history didn't support the version of genuine concern, said, looking directly at me, that accusations like that ruin lives even when they aren't real, said that would be taken into account. My cousin's mother came in afterward, dressed carefully, flawless makeup, the expression of someone who still believed that saying the right things would make everything fall into place. When she saw me, she didn't look away. On the contrary, she held my gaze. She talked. A lot. She talked about motherhood, about sacrifice, about how no one understood how much she had done. She said her daughter was being manipulated, said I was unstable, said she had acted out of love, and that her daughter had said, "I don't have a mother anymore. That woman can go to hell." That was the same sentence my cousin had said the day the police went to the house, and that was the confirmation that the listening device had been installed by her. The prosecutor let her talk. When he responded, he was direct, said love doesn't authorize crime, said concern doesn't justify false accusations. My cousin's mother interrupted, said she was being attacked, that the system was unfair, that they were taking everything from her. That was it. In that sentence, the truth was laid bare. It wasn't about her daughter. It wasn't about me. It never was. It was about losing authority. When the hearing ended outside, my cousin took a deep breath and said something simple. Now it's over. I wanted to believe her. The resolution came in layers, bureaucratic ones. My cousin's mother accepted a deal weeks later. Not because she had understood anything, but because she realized that insisting would cost more than swallowing her pride. There was probation, a restraining order, mandatory monitoring. Deep down, she never acknowledged her mistakes. On the day everything was officially closed, I didn't feel victory. I felt tired. My cousin moved a few months later, to another state, another routine, another street name that didn't carry memory. I helped pack boxes. None of them had photos of her mother. I went back to my life. Another city, another rhythm. Sometimes someone would ask about that trip, and I'd say it had been intense. It was the shortest way to explain something that doesn't fit into casual conversation. A few years later, I learned of my cousin's mother's death. There was no open funeral, no family gathering. There was a practical decision, made by the daughter, to end everything quietly. No speeches, just an end. When I hung up the phone, I sat for a while, waiting to feel something specific. Anger, relief, sadness. Nothing came, just a strange sense of closure. Today, looking back, I think about this a lot, that some people don't want reconciliation. They want submission.